each week on Time with Elyse, we'll be talking about a time capsuler, about their individual time capsule project. Now, these people come from all over, all parts of the world, social clubs, activists, schools, families, and towns. So we'll be exploring their motivations, the contents of their time capsules, and of course, the records, talking about the future when their time capsules are going to be opened. So today we are talking with a great guest. I'm going to introduce him, and he's going to be talking about his family time capsules. And of course, as always, we're just going to hop right into it. So we're going to bring him on board, and stay tuned. Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, welcome. So we're like Michael Adkins is joining us today. And obviously, you guys don't know who he is. So, as always, with all of our guests, I want Michael to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we will pivot into your time capsule.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm excited to talk about time capsules. My name is Mike Adkins. I'm a native Appalachian. I grew up in the state of West Virginia, and I became interested in history and culture and archaeology at a very young age. And I remember going deep into the woods with a metal detector with my dad and finding, bottle caps and interesting artifacts from a time gone by when I was very young. And so that kind of planted a seed for me. And later, I went to Marshall University, and I was fortunate enough to graduate with 4 degrees
Wow.
over a period of time. And I had an opportunity to explore my interest in various, to take several seasons of the Marshall University Archaeology Field School. And so I have here a picture of one of the seasons in the early 2000s. That's me in the camouflage right there. And I gained an appreciation for finding things in the ground. Beyond that, I went on to do paleontology work to actually look for fossils. And I went on several paleontology expeditions through Marshall University. And this is one of the earliest groups that I was affiliated with here. And
Wow.
this is a Marshall University photo. Yeah. And it's from 2002. So, I have a long history of being interested in things that I can find in the ground. So I look at the ground very differently from most people, and I see details, and I appreciate the nuances of the little things that you might not catch. So that transitioned to my interest in time capsules. And so I began a time capsule project, and it started out as I thought, I might do 3 time capsules just for fun. But then I thought, hey, I'm having a lot of fun doing this. Why not make some mini time capsules? And then why not expand it to an international family? And so here I am today having multiple time capsules registered with Oglethorpe University, and I'm talking about it today. So I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to discussing it with you.
Yes, thank you so much, Michael. Very interesting to hear about your background. You are one of the first on our show who's been into digging things up in the actual ground. So very cool that you are here with us and can give us another perspective that we haven't had yet. So I've taken a look at your time capsules. You are also the man who has the most time capsules under one account. So I think that's pretty cool too, setting 2 records here. But I definitely want to hop in straight and talk about your time capsules because I've taken a look. They're so interesting. And I know that you also did 10 miniature ones, so I don't want to steal your thunder, but
Mhm.
I do want to hop into talking about just tell us a little bit about your time capsule, and then we'll pivot into, of course, why it's meaningful. And I'm going to actually show the time capsule on the screen so we can look through the contents
Mhm.
after we get some info on them.
Y- Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I have a number of time capsules, but they all share a common element of preserving family history. And what I mean by that is videos, photographs, and manuscripts that are associated with the Adkins family. And that all ties into the common element and the common preservation method, which was, a USB flash drive.
Yes.
So I was fortunate enough to have a grand aunt. It was my grandfather's sister, and she wrote a lengthy manuscript about the history of the Adkins family. So just to show you this, her name was Verna Ann Fry, and this was never published officially, but it's a book-length manuscript that she wrote, uh, and she's passed away since then. And so one of the things that I thought would be great would be to move that manuscript forward in addition to the photos, videos, and family history data that I've compiled over the years and make a very unique time capsule for my family with the hopes that someday somebody might find it and take an interest in it.
Wow. Um, First, I love the interest in your family. I have the same, but I haven't gone to the extent of writing a full, book length manuscript. So tell me a little bit about your aunt, actually. Like, what prompted her to do something like that? A lot of us are interested, but to dive that deep is a real commitment.
Yeah, she spent, really decades doing this. And the manuscript is by Verna Ann Fry. She was in Atkins from West Virginia, and you see you have the West Virginia state logo here. And she looked through courthouse records, newspaper articles, oral history narratives, and she put it all together into one book length manuscript. And I'm really thankful for it because she did a lot of work that I don't know that anybody else could do. And she was very talented in doing it. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to preserve moving forward in all of the time capsules that I created. And so that's one of the main features that I have digitally in the time capsules.
Yeah. So you were able to scan them and digitize them and transfer them over, right?
Right, in PDF form.
Wow. Okay. When did she create this one?
Well, the latest edition was in, I think, the early 2000s, maybe 2002, roughly. And that's the edition that I operated with and scanned and digitized.
Okay. Wow. So obviously we're looking at a few different time capsules. I'm going to bring them up on the screen so we can go in order. But the first time capsule we always start off with, saying why is it meaningful? Obviously this has to do with your family, so there's a whole family side of it, of course. So we're gonna hop into that. I'm gonna show you that on the screen. I want to make sure that you can see it though.
Sure.
But I actually wanted to say I really love the idea of the courthouse documents. I talk about this a lot, on my channel, and I didn't really consider courthouse documents. So that's a really cool one. I didn't think about that one, but I wanted to show you screen. So I wanted to bring up. Can you see everything?
Not at the moment, but you can describe it and I'll go with it.
Oh, you can't see my screen?
Not at the moment. There's a bit of a delay, but you can talk about it and I will improvise.
Okay. So what we're looking at right now is the World Cat. I'm not sure if you are familiar with how to actually find your time capsule online through the World Cat. So I wanted to
Hmm.
show you like what your time capsule records look like when they've been registered through the International Time Capsule Society.
Hmm.
So I've brought up your time capsule. It's the MJA Glass Jar Time Capsule 7 of 10. And I scroll down. You just click View Online, and your record actually comes up here. So I'm not sure if you've seen this record before. A lot of the guests that we bring on actually haven't seen it, so it's a cool way to view your record. Sometimes it takes a bit,
Hmm.
but I hope that you can see it. Can you see it now?
I don't see it, but I've looked at it online, and I really think it's amazing that all the time capsules are mapped in such a way. I mean, it's really awesome because the one that you're referencing was just a little time capsule,
Mm.
and among several others in a project. And I'm so happy that it's actually archived and available to the public that, it's actually located where it is.
Yeah. Um, let's see it. I am looking at the U.S. and Mexico International Time Capsule one first. Um, the mission of the project was to preserve the history of the two families. So, could you tell me a little bit about that time capsule and why it's meaningful to you?
Sure. Well, I had the opportunity as a student to study in Mexico as a study abroad student in the early 2000s, and I went for 2 semesters during the summer semesters, and I lived with a host family. And one of the interesting things that happened was I developed a relationship with um, one of the host family members, Fernanda, and you can see this picture. This is at Teotihuacan,
Wow.
Mexico, an archaeological site. And so we dated for a while, and we dated for the subsequent summer. And I later deployed to Iraq as a member of the West Virginia Army National Guard.
Wow.
And she sent me a number of letters, of course, and I digitized all of that information, the letters, stuff from whenever I went to college there, the syllabi, a lot of the cultural history, and including her history too. And we had the opportunity to reconnect recently, and she
Wow.
visited the U.S. Yeah, and we collaborated almost 20 years later on a project to bury a time capsule. And so we included both of our family histories. Of course, the old love letters. It is a love story if you open
Wow.
the time capsule and really research it. So it's really fun and it's really lighthearted. And it includes a lot of videos um, that I made. And what I mean by that was in the early days, I had a VHS recorder and I went around with family and friends and I said, hey, this is what life is like in the United States. And this is before, YouTube was popular or any, the easy social medias. And so I would mail the VHS tape to her so she could see it
Oh.
and see what life is like here.
Wow. So it really was
On the flip,
a love story.
it was and is. And on the flip side of that, she had very old archived data uh, in the technical sense, but videos of her being very, very young, like a toddler, and having a birthday party. And it's a lengthy video, but it's something that you might see in a cultural anthropology course. And I
Hmm.
thought, wow, we need to combine all this stuff, and make a time capsule. And so we did. We collaborated on it, and that to date has been the best time capsule that we've created or that I've been involved with. And so I was very happy to be involved in that project.
Wow. That is really nice. And I wonder, through the video, so did you include that video of her family and all of that, or were you able to include that?
A- Absolutely, yeah. I put the data on USB storage devices, and so that allowed for a lot of data and a lot of pictures, including her old family pictures and my old family pictures, to be included in the time capsule. And so, really, it's a cross cultural situation where we have two families that are intertwined and have a unique history and something to share. And we're very happy, to do that in the time capsule project.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you're building this really beautiful story, and you already have built it, you've lived through it. So on your time capsule, I don't see an opening date. When did you want people to open these, and what was the plan for that?
I'm a very liberal person, and so I didn't put an opening date because, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be 100 years from now, or many hundreds of years from now. So I just wanted to leave it like an open-ended situation where the finder would hopefully take interest in, what was shared and then do something with it. And as such, I included a lot of material contents,
Yes.
not just the data on the USB drives, but interesting cultural, historical, common artifacts that may be of interest to somebody whenever they opened it. So the idea was to make it fun for whoever found it and digs it up and opens it. They see a bunch of interesting stuff, but at the heart of it, the real time capsule is the data on the flash drives.
And so you have the two records. Is the $2 bill time capsule project, that's different, right?
That's different, but very closely related. It shares some of the same data. For example, the manuscript by my grandaunt, that's included. Some of the publication that I wrote, unique to Adkins family history, about what's called the Zouave caves,
Hmm.
or if you want to say it properly in French, the Zouave caves. Um, yeah, I published a peer-reviewed article on that and included that.
Oh
But there's a
wow.
lot of photos, family photos, and a lot of stuff like that. And it's really about the Adkins family history. And to show you a picture, this photo is among, I know there's a lot of glare, but, it shows four generations of Atkins. And
Wow.
I'm in the center with, the little boy. And my dad's in the white. My grandpa is in the colorful shirt. And photos like that and others are included digitally in all the time capsules across the board.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And honestly, given your story, the origin of this time capsule, I'm fascinated. Have you had any media interest? Have you, had any journalists come up to you and ask you about your time capsules when you registered it? Some people have, so I always ask the question.
Mhm. I have. I was contacted by an associate of a documentary filmmaker, and
Mhm.
apparently there's a film being produced about time capsules. And so I signed a permission slip to allow them to use my data and photographs for whatever purposes they want to. I don't
Wow.
know if they will. I haven't heard back yet, but I welcome any opportunity to share what I have to include the data and the story.
Michael, I know exactly. It's Frank Heath, a New York City filmmaker. He has done this incredible time capsule documentary. The last I heard, he was in the editing stages, and it was supposed to be shown at a gallery in New York City. So I have to kind of look into if it was
Hmm.
shown, maybe with COVID, things are up in the air.
Hmm.
But when we do get that information, I'm going to definitely include that in one of my episodes and link it in because we're all, eagerly awaiting that video. And that's part of the reason I reached out to you as well, because you were, kind enough to submit content to him and he was super excited to receive it. So thank you for that. And I hope that, it does become something that you can enjoy together, hopefully, with your family and with the other family that you created that time capsule with. With that being said, I would love to kind of talk about the specifics of the time capsule because everyone decides what to put in it. Obviously, everyone's different. Some do the physical and the digital. You've done a combination of both, which is great. And I see, really big personality pieces, in my opinion. I see a cigar, I see a guitar pick. So, talk me through some of these really great contents. I see a paper note of Iraqi currency, obviously symbolizes when um, you were a serviceman. So tell me a little bit about what went into the thought process behind time capsules, because for, our listeners out there, that time capsule fanatics, we all understand that it could be a selective process when choosing what goes into a time
Hmm.
capsule because of its size, because of what you're.
Sure, sure. I mean, the most important thing, the actual time capsule itself, is the data on the flash drive. The material contents were a nice bonus, and it was made to, make sure that somebody has fun if they open it. But also, it ties into some of the personality that I have, especially with the first time capsules, which was in the $2 bill time capsule project. And if you think about a $2 bill, it's a quirky thing. You don't see them too often.
Yeah.
They're real, but it's one of those things that you just don't see every day. So I thought, what can I do on a low budget, that would be interesting and fun if somebody actually opened it? And so the three main time capsules, part of the $2 bill time capsule project, included, of course, the $2 bill, an Iraqi note, which is a currency because I served in Iraq and I obtained that in Iraq,
Yeah.
a knife, a tiny, tiny bit of rum, Kraken rum, a picture. In fact, it is this picture of four generations of Adkins uh, people, and a cigar, some coins, a guitar pick because I come from a musical background and a musical family, and various coins and odds and ends just to show a little bit of character and to have a little bit of fun for the person that opens it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really love guitar pick, alcohol, just personality pieces. I think it's really funny. You'd be surprised to know, but the most popular physical content that people put in time capsules is actually their hair, which is to me, I don't
Really?
find because it starts to fall apart. It doesn't hold up very well, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
interested to see if the alcohol, is like it holds up as well as something like a guitar pick. I feel like would do pretty well. A cigar. Let's see if people are
Mm-hmm.
still smoking those back in the day or in the future more so. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you heavily really put your thought into the data, and then from my understanding, the rest was just these fun add-ons for whoever opened it.
Yeah, that's right. The real time capsule is the data on the flash drives,
Mhm.
but the material contents are just for fun.
Yeah. So of course, you've registered them. Have you actually buried these time capsules as well?
Oh yeah. They were buried before they were registered, and I
Okay.
took the GPS coordinates and cataloged them all meticulously with Oglethorpe University, and they have a time capsule registry.
Mm.
And so I use them as, the method for getting this information out in the future.
So where did you actually bury them? Was it a spot that had significant? to you, or did you just kind of see what was close and record the coordinates so you could find it in the future?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. For the most part, I selected places that had sentimental value. For example, my grandparents' old house, I buried a couple of time capsules near that location. Um, of course, my backyard and other places that I visited and really like to be at. And so there's also a sentimental attachment to the locations associated with the burials.
Yeah. And then I guess, for um, 80 to 90% of physical time capsules are lost when they're buried. So everyone, is thinking long and hard about the ways in which they can map them and protect them so their hard work doesn't go to waste. So how did you, specifically, how did you ensure that yours would be not forgotten and that your descendants or whoever in the future would actually be able to find your time capsule and enjoy it and use it and see it?
Well, there were a few methods that are underway at the same time. One was registering them, of course, by GPS coordinate with Oglethorpe University and their database. Beyond that, I've written, I copied down and printed the registry information and bound it into several notebooks to be passed down with my family. But beyond that, my hope was that some of these, not all, but some, might be discovered accidentally. And that would, I think, be the most fun because they were in locations that, of course, have sentimental value, but often another value as well. For example, one of the miniature time capsules that I buried in a well, like a water well that had been filled up almost to the top. And so I put the time capsule in and then put a little bit more dirt on top of it. So in the future, if there's an archaeological study or if somebody's curious, they might dig down in that old well and find a time capsule featuring people from that area and the history of people from that specific location.
Okay, so you took in bits of your archaeological sure that they were easy to find and that, I'm sure you've been in the position where you're digging through the dirt and maybe you would have felt pretty cool to actually find a time capsule. So I'm sure you were kind of planting it for someone like Michael, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's like dominoes. I'm setting up one thing to fall against another and another, and hopefully um, one or more will be found at some point in the future. Hopefully, 100 years or more from now. But we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like a fun project, a good chance to get everything together and really make the most of, all the work that your great aunt did and all the work that you've been doing with your family history. So, with that being said, do you also think that time capsules are a useful way of preserving history, or do you think it's more of just a fun project that everyone should do?
It's a bit of both. It's not holistic in terms of the historical perspective. Certainly, the time capsules that I've been involved with, it's very narrowly focused on my family
Mm.
and the experiences of people around me. But that's a valuable perspective historically because we know a lot historically about the big historical figures like Julius Caesar, Cleopatra, Socrates, Plato. These people, are epic, you know, in terms of their what's not really known much is, the average person. And so really time capsules like the ones that I've done at least, they provide a glimpse into life of the average Joe, the average person. And it can be very colorful and very interesting. And I think it's something worth preserving and I'm happy to be involved with the project to do that.
Yeah, I think that is one of the best our guests have ever had. You are really, you're right about that. I mean, we have so many historical pieces, that cover all these amazing people, these creators, these scientists, and all of that. But getting a glimpse of history and looking into the average person and what the normal person experience their day-to-day lives. I think there's beauty in the mundane. I really do, and I think it's often overlooked. So this time capsule is the epitome of that, and I think it's an amazing idea. And I think whoever finds it is going to be just amazed by the fact that you don't have to be this superstar, this celebrity to have a great life and have influence over people and leave an impression. I think that yours shows that, especially with something sentimental like the love letters and capturing that story. I can't. They write movies based on this stuff, so I think this is like a very beautiful moment, and that's why I was so excited as well to open up your time capsule and have you on the show, because we haven't had anyone who's really put in that personal I don't know, that little like romance spin to it. So this is a really cool one. And then as you've said, these are incredible ways to capture the generations of your family. I love the 4 generation photos. I know sometimes when I'm talking to people about time capsules and I say, like, because now that we have digital time capsules, some of them can last up to 10 generations, and people go, 10 generations? What does that even look like? And you've perfectly showed a picture of 4 generations and how
Hmm.
attainable that is, and how you can know all of these people. Sorry, I'm getting on
Hmm.
a rant, but I think it's just so great, and I think that you've really done an amazing job with yours. And I love that you've done it. And
Thank you.
yeah, and I've looked into the way that you've stored it and the purchasing as well. You have the Amazon time capsules, the stainless steel, if I'm correct, right? Tell me a little bit about the materials for people who also want to do what you've done.
Well, what I can do is give you a short tutorial of some of the basic preservation methods
Yeah.
because, of course, I'm worried about water, and the impact that it would have on artifacts, especially USB drives.
For sure.
So, one of the things that I did was to take 2 separate USB drives and different brands, different types, similar memory. I take 2 of them and then I place those into a pill container. And if you think about it, this is a very watertight, somewhat, uh, device. So once that's sealed, take it and put it into another jar. This
Okay.
happens to be an olive jar. Just drop it down in there. Maybe wrap it with some additional baggies to seal it. Then seal that up with a silicone sealant at the top. Beyond that, put it in another jar like this. And then seal that with the silicone sealant at the top. And then put it in something else. Um, at the end of all that, I wrapped it up in a lot of very heavy baggies, kind of like this. It's hard to see, but you can see it's a very thick baggy material, and sealed it up. Um, with every step of the way, you know, I used additional baggies, additional sealants, a lot of tape, because water has a way of penetrating through just about everything. So you can't overdo it, really. Um, Additionally, one of the things that I included is silicone packs
Oh, okay.
near the data, near the storage devices, and you can get these if you buy a pair of shoes. They often come in it. They're handy if you want to preserve something and maybe take out a little bit of the moisture from the environment.
Hmm.
So they're easy to get and they're very handy. And that was my basic methods. And for the main ones that were the metal time capsules, I did all that plus the metal, plus more wrapping on top of it. So the idea was to make multiple and redundant layers of weather protection. So hopefully it will survive, you know, 100 or some hundreds of years of weatherization underground.
Yeah, you've definitely made that argument for that yours will, hopefully survive opening date or whenever it's found. As you don't have an opening date, but whenever someone finds it, so because data rot and physical rot are definitely enemies of time capsules, so you've taken a good precaution with those.
Mhm.
The only thing that worries me is the USB because data rot happens in types of weather. Like if it's too humid or if it's too hot, the climate can
Mhm.
impact it and it could start to fall apart. So are those silicone packs? Are those meant to help that aspect?
Yeah, definitely. For example, I will reverse engineer here. One of the first items, or one of the first things that I would do would be to start with the individual, like pill container, and wrap two USB storage devices in a plastic baggie and seal it up with, of course, conventional tape as best possible, packaging tape, and place those into the pill container and use the silicone packet also inside there,
Mm.
and then cap that on. That's pretty good in and of itself. But when you combine it with more, and you keep doing that over and over, and then again with a metal capsule over top, really it provides redundant safety measures against flooding or water entry or anything like that. So my best guess is they might have a shelf life of
Oh yeah.
150, maybe 200 years, maybe more. Who knows? But that's an easy way to do it on the fly on a low budget, and hopefully it'll work.
Yeah, I hope so too. Was there research that went into it? Because your method's actually the first time I've seen people, put jar and jar and jar and stack it. So I was like, oh, you should patent that because I have not heard that one before. Where did you come up with that idea?
Well, I'm a native Appalachian, and we tend to do things ourselves and find novel ways of doing things. But beyond that, it's my experience with college on the paleontology expeditions and the archaeology expeditions and looking at ways things change over time. And I ask myself, if I really want to preserve something, what's the best shot of doing that on a low budget and making it fun? And that's what I come up with.
Yeah, definitely. Again, have not seen the stacking technique. So, for those of the audience members who are listening in via audio, he has shown us two USBs with the silicone packet put into what looks like a pill bottle. Then he stacked it with,
Hmm.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. Stacked it within an olive jar, put it into another jar, one more jar,
Hmm.
into the metal time capsule, and then some bags around that as well, right?
That's right, and also bags along the way because they make for good. If you put the individual containers in a baggie on every step of the way, it provides a kind of like a barrier, where it won't get broke. You know what I mean? Like it can move around a little bit, but not break.
Mm.
So it adds a little bit of stability to the time capsule as a whole, but also a layer of protection.
Yeah. And I know kind of inspired by your work in college. So when you guys went out and did work, this is just a random question because I'm interested. What was the craziest thing that you found? Or were they all kind of making you go on these trails that they had already left things in as a test? Or were you actually going out to look at it? I don't know if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the most interesting artifacts that was found, in my opinion, was from the early 2000s, and it came back to this picture here. This was the field crew, and I know there's a lot of glare, but that's me here in the camouflage. But also in the green right here, that's my mother.
Oh, wow.
She was in the same class and did the same field work that I did at that particular time. And she found a glass bead in a woodland archaeological site.
Mhm.
And these glass beads were, you know, early European production. And so it showed some of the very earliest trade between Europeans and Native Americans. And that's one of the things that I'm most proud of, you know, from a family perspective, was that she found that little tiny glass bead.
Wow.
And, now it's housed in Marshall University in their collection. And
Wow.
I think it was a great experience. And I was happy to be a part of that and happy to share it with a family member and also with very close friends.
Yeah, and I think and glass in your time capsule. I don't know if you realize maybe the subconscious element of her finding this glass bead and then you doing this glass stacking to protect your time capsules. I don't know if you thought about that, but I just noticed it. Did you ever realize that?
Well, what I've noticed over the years from a very young age is glass really preserves well. It keeps well with the elements. The trick is the cap on it,
Hmm.
because most glass items have a metallic cap or something. And so, I knew from a very early age the glass, you know, preserves well. And so that's why I chose it, the jar method, and the redundant method of multiple glass items inside one, wrapped, often with bubble paper. I'm sure you're familiar with this. It makes the snapping sound when you pop it. So, you know, if you pack it the right way and seal it the right way with silicone on the lids, really, it's going to last a long time, and it doesn't cost a fortune.
Yeah. Have you thought about it shattering? That's the thing that I know it's clumsy. I drop glasses in my
I
house.
have.
Will this shatter?
Hmm. Absolutely. I thought about it, and that's why I got a lot of the bubble wrap. And I included that in every stage of the wrapping process. That way, at the end of the day, I had maybe a football sized time capsule
Hmm.
that had a lot of wrapping, a lot of redundant weatherization features, a lot of bubble wrap, and you place that inside of something metal that's not going to collapse, it makes for really good preservation on the fly.
Yeah, and totally. And you're doing time capsule on a budget. So the audience is getting that helpful guide. And when we do move forward and I do think, someone's going to open this time capsule, what do you think the world's going to be like when it is opened? Let's say it's in, 50 to 100 years from now. What do you think it'll be like?
Well, looking at 100 years, I'm hopeful that diseases like cancer and viruses will have an easy cure. I think we're on the verge of maybe a biological revolution where we understand more about biology and how to control it. And I'm hopeful that the diseases of today will be easily eliminated in the future.
Yeah, I mean, me too, after the pandemic. Like, very timely answer. I guess even with time capsules, what do you think the future technology will be?
Oh wow! Thinking about what it might be like in the future, I can imagine a situation where people might launch time capsules into space. If you think about it, it's not a big leap to do what I did, but send it on a probe, you know, or a small, tiny projectile,
Hmm.
to another solar system or to another galaxy. So I think in the future, maybe we'll see a lot of time capsules that go not just on Earth, but in space.
Mm. Now, would those you think be digital?
Maybe. It's hard to say. I mean, in a way, we've already did it because if you look at the Voyager probe and Carl Sagan, they've already sent a probe out into space with a record of humanity, to include music, selections of music, what we look like as people. And so, in a way, that's already happened.
Mm.
But I think in the future that maybe it may happen at an individual level where
Yeah,
individual people can send their own things out, you know.
yeah.
But who knows?
I was thinking more.
I don't have a crystal ball, but it's not.
I hear a dog. Yeah, and more the average Joe, their kind of time capsule, not just the rich people that can send it up in space, but something that's more budget friendly, like you said.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I see that as happening, potentially in the future. But it's interesting that you mentioned the future of time capsules because I'm a big Star Trek fan,
Oh,
especially Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I remember an episode where there was a time capsule involved, and there was a species that was long extinct, and somehow they sent a probe out, and the Starship Enterprise encountered the probe, and it connected with the captain somehow and imprinted on him a lifetime of experiences and culture unique to the culture that wanted to be preserved. And so this guy, Captain Picard, he had two lives, so to speak. The one that he lived with the Enterprise, and also the one that he gained through this probe that was in essence a time capsule. So, you know, science fiction has really opened the possibilities of what can be. But I think, realistically in the future, you know, I can see individuals sending out very small things into space with the hopes that sometime, somewhere, somebody or something might find them.
yeah. It's interesting that you bring up. I recently watched a clip from where Matthew McConaughey was coming back from his adventure and he left his family on Earth. And I guess the timing was sped up wherever he was. So by the time he returned, it was 23 years later. And his family had
Hmm.
videos of them growing up. I mean, it was an emotional scene. He missed his children's entire childhood. He couldn't
Hmm.
really grow up alongside them and see them go through all of their firsts and be there and to support them as a dad, but they sent him videos as he was in space. And when he came back from his adventure, he watched them all. And he watched his adult son grow up and get his first girlfriend and break up with the girlfriend and meet his wife and have kids. And so by the time he came back, he was actually a grandpa. And
Yeah,
yeah, I think
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, and if you think about it, what they were getting at was a thing called time dilation. Time is relative, especially if you travel, at very high speeds and come back. Um, so who's to say, that may be possible in the future, that something like that may actually happen. I'm very open to it, not convinced, but open.
Yeah, totally. I think the whole point of just being able to kind of look at your family and be able to speak. I know I would love, you've done this a lot, has to do with family history. Wouldn't you love your great aunt being able to sit in front of a camera and tell you everything that she wrote in her manuscript? Of course, you can read it, but coming from her mouth and hearing her mannerisms, seeing her smile, her laugh, and really feeling the passion that she has for everything that she's
Hmm.
created, wouldn't that be so cool to watch her talk to you, or even to watch, your great grandparents talk to you in a film or in a
Hmm.
video, just like they did on Interstellar?
Yeah, I think that would be excellent. And it's one of the things that I regret in life is not recording those moments on a media that could be preserved. Of course, I do have many that are recorded. I mean, there are a lot of home videos. There are a lot of family musical selections because I have a rich history of playing music in my family and original music, and a lot of that's included in the time capsules. But what I really wish that I would have done was to sit down and talk with everybody and record it and to have that face to face interaction that everybody could see,
Yeah.
you know. So in the what I'm getting at is I encourage people that are doing time capsules in the future, think about doing an oral history or a recorded history. Think about recording your relatives. You know, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. Even the mundane can be very valuable culturally, and of course, within our hearts.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I also, love the music because you do have such a rich history in your family of music. It would be as if your story was incomplete if you didn't include that or talk about it. So, I hope that you put some songs and some music on those USBs, and I hope that honestly it's found in the next like 20 years so that we still have the ability to play the USBs so someone could plug them in. Um, because
Right.
technology obsolescence is our biggest challenge with physical time capsules as well. So, with that being said, do you have any advice as we reach the end of the podcast to give to our listeners who want to create their own time capsules? You've already had the niche of creating a time capsule on a budget, so that's your audience. So, who do you want to, what do you want to tell them as they embark on their time capsule journey?
You know, don't go for the most biggest and historically significant things. Go for what's meaningful for you and your family. Go for the average everyday life experiences. Like somebody playing with their dog, a conversation with a grandparent, somebody telling a story, maybe a relative playing an instrument, singing a song. Those little moments are valuable, um, not just historically, but personally, and it's something that can add context to future generations that'll look back on us. So the little things matter. And so I would encourage everybody to, focus on the little things, have fun with it, and enjoy making it. Make it a family event, a time capsule, creating one. Um,
Yeah.
so that's my advice.
No, that's great advice. A time capsule with my family and then do a family reunion. We could all open it together and kind of look and see what's in there and bond and kind of incentivize everyone to get together. All of my family lives all across
Mhm.
America, so to have them in one place so we could do that joint activity would be great. But seriously, Michael, it's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us such a unique and different story that I'm sure everyone is really happy to
Mhm.
hear. So again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about time capsules with you.
Of course. And for anyone watching, we will link his time capsule so you can see it and explore for yourself. So, all right, Michael, it was so nice to have you. We will be in contact.
All right. Sounds great.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, guys, so that was Michael. Absolutely amazing episode. I think the best part about that episode for me was the personal connection he had while creating his time capsule, obviously with the woman he was dating, as well as his family and her family. I think that it's interesting that he included so many physical artifacts, but the most important, again, were the human elements of it, which of course resided in the data that he stored. So, for those of you who are watching, for those of you who have kept up with the hidden world of time capsules, we are seeing an underlying theme here, which is family, human connection, and love throughout this. So, if you are going to make a time capsule, be sure to really highlight those things, material items that we have and collected in life. They're fun, but they're not really the central focus point of our lives. I think, again, it would be human connection. So for everyone watching and listening, thank you so much for tuning in with us this week. And next week we will be talking again with another great guest about their time capsule, what they've included in it, and doing a similar kind of interview. But of course, it'll be a completely different story. So tune in. I'll see you guys next week at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will hop right in. We always